suffer with family's problem issues. And by that time, my family, just a lot of things happening at the same time.
Venerable Bhante Pannakara is a Theravada Buddhist monk and former IT engineer who transitioned from a corporate career to a life of mindfulness and service. Born in Vietnam and educated at the University of Texas at Arlington, Bhante Pannakara immigrated to the U.S. in 1997 and took full ordination in 2010. So same year as me. And I think same birth year as well. Well, you're 81 and I'm 82, but
I see.
it's very similar. So took full ordination in 2010 in the lineage of the Most Venerable Ratanaguna, the last direct disciple of His Holiness the Venerable Vangsarakkhita, founder and first Sangharaja of the Vietnamese Theravada Buddhist Sangha. In 2020, he launched the Dhammachetya project to preserve the Tipitaka in a monumental marble stupa complex, a vision furthered by his 112-day, 2,100-mile ascetic Tudong pilgrimage across India and Nepal. That journey, chronicled in his memoir, The Footsteps of a Buddhist Monk, laid the foundation for his most recent undertaking, leading the only very recently completed 2,300-mile, 108-day walk for peace from Texas to Washington, D.C., which most people watching, I think, will know you from. He is currently serving at the Hung Dao Vipassana Bhavana Center in Fort Worth, Texas. So, Bhante, there's so much there, and a fascinating life, an adventuresome life, so many things that we can go into. How is Aloka?
Yeah, Aloka is actually here. Aloka is very active. He's very active, and he wouldn't want to stay at one place. He would love to roam around and then walk and things like that. And so his surgery, the doctor just came from South Carolina 2 days ago to check up on him. So he has such merit. I mean, people love him so much, and he just got been taken care of well by doctors and everyone. Really, I can't imagine his merit at all, because us from a stray dog, and now that is world famous ambassador. And so he has his own merits that we cannot know about. Right?
Some, Bhante, your act of going on the Walk for Peace rippled out to us very strongly too. We go for alms every morning at Pike Place Market, or most mornings, and ever since after you began walking and people began learning, people would jog by me and just make Anjali, people who never would have before. And we all had a friend recommend that we get a dog, so we have our own Aloka. But Bhante, one thing I wanted to ask, I really, this conversation for me is a chance to kind of, as monastics, for us to get to really speak about the heart and core threads of our lives in a way that, most interviews might not get to touch. And I wondered if you could start with just talking about the moments of faith, the key moments of faith that brought you into robes to ordain.
Yes, again, for my journey to become a monk is quite different, as we already talk about my bio, a brief bio saying that I was an engineer and things like that. So up until now, I'm not sure why I graduated. Very, I'm really bad at math. Okay. And so after I graduated, and then I went to work for 2 and almost 3 years. And during that time of work, I feel like, is this really what I want? Is this a path that I want to continue on, or is it something else? Because seeing friends and co-workers and everybody just like, it's really not real. It's fake. It's because when we talk about friendship, it's just purely friendship. That's what I always thought. And expect it to be. But obviously it's not, is because of benefits. When benefits involve, then everything just seems like it's changed. And I question myself, is this really, and is it going to be everywhere, everyone, or it's just me? And so days after days of working, and then I see friendship and co-workers and everything like that, people willing to step on us to climb higher. And then go home every day, work, and then come home, seeing my parents and my brother and sister. I don't talk. By that time, I don't talk at all. Just go in my room, and then that's it. That's all day, and then all night. And seeing my brothers and sister also suffer with families' problem issues. And by that time, my family, just a lot of things happening at the same time. My father got into like a really bad car accident by the 18-wheeler. And then, but luckily they are okay. And then I rented a car for them, for my father and my mother. And then we hit that car as well the same week. And then we got a different car parked right in front of us and got stole same week. Everything just come to me just like, okay, is this really what I want in my life, or I want a different path? That is the time where my feeling is get stronger and stronger, that I want to seek for something else. And one day during the noontime, a peak noon, in Texas weather, we already know it's really weird. It's changing rapidly, right? We call weird weather in Texas, and the people here also weird. And so, being weird, I took off from work. I drove myself to the Hungdao Temple, which is the temple right now. Back then, I was a leader in the youth at the different temple in Irving, nearby to my workplace and my house. But when I took off work, I drove up here. It's like 30 minutes away from where I work. And then come up here, and I saw my teachers, Venerable Ratanaguna. He walk around under the hot sun, and then I follow him. Just walk behind him, and then certainly he stop and turn around and ask me, are you okay? What can I help you? And I just answer him, and I didn't expect this. I said, can I ordain to become a monk temporary? And he smiled and he said, yes, when? I say 2 weeks. Let me arrange my work and things like that. And then after 2 weeks, and I enter to the monastery, and then start to ordain to become a temporary, not a novice, just stay there, as before ordained to become a novice, stay there for a couple of months. And then I went home again to go to work. And then when I go to work, I feel like this definitely not what I want. I need to go back to the monastery. And I asked my teachers, can I come back to the monastery and then go to work during the day? And then at night, I stay at the temple to study and practice. And he said, yes. And I keep doing that for a while. And then one day, when I sweep the floor, sweep the yard when people cut the grass, mowing the grass, and I sweep it, and I saw all those grass that had been cut, and I imagined of my hairs, and I thought, these grass is just like my hair. So if I'm not shaving it, I feel itchy and very difficult for me with that feeling. But then I cannot, just like kilesa, right, defilement. So, but I cannot eliminate it all yet. I cannot take it, remove them all yet. So I will put you here together, and I will pick you up together, and I will remove them all together later on. I just talk to myself that way. And then when I turned around and I saw one of the leaf, a very young leaf on the big tree by the gazebo. This gazebo is the first thing that my master built when he just first came to the temple. So this is a sacred place for us. And so the leaf, the young leaf, just dropped down in front of me, just like this, slowly in front of my eyes. And I look at that leaf, and I see that leaf. I imagine of myself, this is impermanent. So the young leaf also dropped due to so many conditions, right? Weather and everything. How about my life? One day I will also die, regardless of how old I am at that time. So I will be the same. Then what is real? That I ask myself that way, and I throw the broom right there and then run in. And I saw my teachers walking back and forth by the parking lot again in front of the monk's residence. And I told him the whole story. He said, if you have that knowledge now, you're great. Okay, back then when the Buddha's still alive, the Buddha told people with just one sentence, one quote, and they became enlightenment right away. Or the lady, after listening to the Buddha taught, and then she took a shower, and then she poured the water from top of her head and down to her feet, and she became enlightenment. She realized everything and became enlightenment. Now you see the leaves falling, and you can realize that way. You're great. Then I was so happy when he said that, right? I say, then may I ordain to become a monk? He said no. He said no. And after that, I went home and talked with my parents, and they also say no. So 3 times like that, I asked my teachers and my parents, and they both say no. Until one last time, and he accepted it during the night time. Before that, he told me, for a student, if you cannot go to bed before your teacher, and you cannot stay in bed after your teacher's already awake. That's what he told me. So at 12 midnight, he didn't go to sleep, and he just walked back and forth in the monk's residence. So I dare to go to sleep, right? I just sat there and watch him walking back and forth. And I asked him, Master, can I ordain to become a monk? That's the last time. And I asked him, he said, he's very difficult. He said a lot of things. I am very difficult. Can you handle that? Can you bear with that? And I say, I need teachers like you. I needed teachers like you. And then after chit chat for a while, and he said, I already picked out the date for you, full moon of April, for you to ordain. And so tomorrow go home and talk to your parents. And then I was so happy. And then tomorrow comes, and I went home and talked with my parents, and they cried so much. I kneeled down in front of them, and they pay respect to them. And they cried, and I asked them one last time that allow me to ordain to become a monk, and they all agree. They all agree. There, my journey begins from there, just like that. But I never expected about ordaining to become a monk. I never had that thought before.
Life has a beautiful, often unpredictable way of inviting us to wake up. For many of us, this invitation does not arrive wrapped in a neat, easily understandable package. Instead, it comes disguised as exhaustion, as a quiet ache in the chest during the morning commute, or as a persistent whisper that there must be something more to our fleeting time on this earth. We spend our days chasing milestones, graduations, promotions, the accumulation of comforts, only to find ourselves standing at the summit of our imagined success, wondering why the view feels so hollow. This modern mirage of success is a landscape Venerable Bhante Pannakara knows intimately. Long before he stepped into the robes of a Theravada Buddhist monk, before he embarked on a monumental walk for peace across the heart of America, he was an IT engineer navigating the familiar, fast-paced corporate grind. He walked the same concrete pavements many of us walk, breathed the same recycled office air, and grappled with the same unsettling realization that the transactional nature of the modern world often leaves our deepest human needs unmet. In the corporate sphere, relationships can easily become tethered to utility rather than genuine connection. We might look around at our colleagues, our acquaintances, and even our friends, and wonder if the bonds we share are rooted in true care or mere convenience. Bhante Pannakara found himself questioning this very dynamic, observing how the pursuit of individual benefit can cause people to step over one another on the ladder of ambition. This environment of conditionality, where warmth is exchanged only when profitable, breeds a profound sense of isolation. We go to work, we come home, we retreat into our individual rooms, and the cycle repeats, slowly draining the color from our days. It is a quiet suffering that many Americans know all too well, a silent pandemic of disconnection that leaves us yearning for a life of profound authenticity, where we can simply be, without the constant pressure to perform or produce. When this subtle emptiness is compounded by acute personal tragedy, the fabric of our everyday lives can begin to tear, forcing us to confront the fragility of our existence. For Bhante Pannakara, the catalyst for profound change arrived not as a single epiphany, but as a barrage of overwhelming family hardships that shattered any illusion of control. We often construct our lives like fortresses, believing that if we just work hard enough, secure the right job, and buy the right car, we can insulate ourselves and our loved ones from the unpredictable storms of the world. Yet, reality has a way of dismantling these fortresses. In a startlingly brief period, his family faced a cascade of terrifying events, a devastating collision involving his father and an 18-wheeler, followed by another crash in a rental car, and finally, the theft of yet another vehicle, all within the span of a single week. To experience such a rapid succession of shocks is to stand at the edge of an abyss. When the universe strips away our perceived security with such sudden force, it is entirely natural to feel crushed beneath the weight of it all. We might retreat further into silence, just as he did, hiding in our rooms, burdened by the unspoken suffering of our loved ones. However, from a mindfulness perspective, these moments of intense disruption are not merely tragedies, they are profound, albeit painful, awakenings. They shake us by the shoulders, demanding that we ask the most vital questions. Is this the path I truly want to be on? Is this the life I am meant to live? The suffering we experience when our worldly foundations crumble becomes the very fertile soil from which the seed of spiritual seeking begins to sprout. It is the friction that lights the match, illuminating the urgent need for a peace that is not dependent on the unpredictable circumstances of the external world. This urgent need for a different kind of sanctuary eventually propels us to step out of our routine and seek refuge in the eye of the storm. There is a beautiful spontaneity to the soul's cry for help, a moment when the internal pressure builds to such a degree that we simply must break from the script. On an ordinary, sweltering noon in Texas, a place famous for its wild, rapidly changing weather, Bhante Pannakara did something extraordinary. He stepped away from the relentless machinery of his workday, got into his car, and drove toward the Hung Dao Temple. He did not have a grand, meticulously plotted spiritual plan. He simply followed an intuitive pull toward stillness. How often do we deny ourselves this basic grace? We feel the overwhelming urge to pause, to step out into the sunlight, to find a quiet corner of a park or a silent room, yet we convince ourselves that we are too busy, that our spreadsheets and emails cannot wait. But true wisdom often requires us to honor that spontaneous urge to seek peace. Arriving at the temple, he witnessed his teacher, the Venerable Ratana Guna, walking calmly beneath the unforgiving midday sun. There is a magnetic quality to a truly peaceful presence. Simply walking behind someone who is anchored in the present moment can settle our own turbulent minds. When his teacher stopped, turned, and asked how he could help, the response that spilled from Bhante Pannakara's lips, a request to ordain as a monk, was a surprise even to himself. It was the voice of his deeper nature speaking, bypassing the logical, calculating mind that had governed his life as an engineer. This impulsive leap reminds us that peace is not something we can think our way into. It is a space we must courageously choose to enter, sometimes leaving the familiar world behind in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon to find it. Yet, stepping into the sanctuary is only the beginning. The deepest transformations occur in the quiet, mundane moments of mindful presence. Returning to the temple day after day, Attempting to balance his worldly job with his growing spiritual devotion, Bhante Pannakara found himself engaged in the simple, repetitive task of sweeping grass clippings in the temple yard. In our modern culture, we often view chores as obstacles to our happiness, things to be rushed through so we can get to the important parts of our lives. But mindfulness teaches us that the sacred is hidden precisely in the ordinary. As he swept the severed grass, he saw a reflection of his own mental burdens, the internal clutter, the defilements, the attachments that felt as itchy and uncomfortable as uncut hair. He realized that true inner peace requires a patient gathering of our scattered parts, an acknowledgement that we cannot instantly eradicate our struggles, but we can gently sweep them together, hold them with compassion, and prepare to release them. It was in this state of grounded, meditative awareness that a singular, life-altering event occurred. A young leaf from the sacred tree by the gazebo detached from its branch and drifted slowly, gently, to the ground right before his eyes. In that silent descent, the entire truth of existence was laid bare. He saw not just a piece of foliage, but the undeniable reality of impermanence. If a vibrant, young leaf can fall, subject to the unpredictable winds and weather, then so too will we. Regardless of our age, our career, or the fortresses we build, our time here is fleeting. This realization of mortality, rather than being a source of despair, became the ultimate liberator. When we truly comprehend that we are falling leaves, the superficial worries, the workplace ladders, the petty grievances, the illusion of permanence, fall away. We are left only with the profound, radiant reality of the present moment, holding the broom, breathing the air, awake to the miraculous, fragile beauty of simply being alive. Understanding this truth intellectually is one thing, but embodying it requires a sacred patience, a willingness to be tested by the very world we seek to transcend. Filled with the joyous energy of his realization, Bhante Pannakara ran to his master, eager to fully renounce his old life and take the robes immediately. The response he received was a swift, unequivocal no. In a culture that conditions us to expect instant gratification, to demand immediate delivery of everything from our groceries to our spiritual enlightenment, hearing no can feel like a devastating failure. He asked his master, and he asked his parents, and time again, he was met with rejection and tears. But there is a profound grace in these obstacles. A true spiritual path is not a fleeting whim. It requires an anchor deep enough to withstand the wildest storms. The master's refusal was not a denial of his student's realization, but a crucible designed to test the purity and endurance of his intent. We all face these locked doors when we attempt to make a meaningful change in our lives. Whether we are trying to heal a broken relationship, shift our career towards something more meaningful, or cultivate a daily meditation practice, we will inevitably encounter resistance, both from within and from the people who love us and fear our transformation. The mindfulness perspective invites us to view these rejections not as brick walls, but as vital training grounds. By waiting, by continuing to show up, by sitting quietly in the late hours of the night watching his teacher pace, Bhante Pannakara demonstrated that his desire for peace was not a temporary escape from his suffering, but a permanent commitment to truth. He proved that he could bear the difficulty, and in doing so, he prepared his own heart to hold the immense responsibility of the monastic life. When the heart is finally ready and the commitment is proven, the choice to embrace peace does not isolate us from the world. Instead, it sends out unseen ripples that touch the shores of countless other lives. The day the final yes was given, the tears of his parents transformed from sorrow over losing a son into a bittersweet blessing of his sacred journey. From that moment forward, Bhante Pannakara ceased to be just an IT engineer trying to survive the week. He became a vessel for ancient, living wisdom. The beauty of mindfulness and monastic dedication is that it is never truly a solitary endeavor. When one human being commits to walking the earth with a gentle step and a calm mind, the entire atmosphere around them shifts. We see this vividly in the way his presence, and his subsequent monumental walk for peace across the United States, affected the communities he passed through. People who might never have stepped foot inside a temple or read a sutra found themselves moved to pause, to offer a bow of respect, to jog past him in the early morning light and make a gesture of reverence. This is the quiet power of embodied peace. We do not need to deliver grand lectures to change the world. We simply need to walk our path with integrity. Our calm nervous systems regulate the nervous systems of those around us. Our refusal to engage in hostility gives others permission to lower their own defenses. In a society that is often loud, fractured, and anxious, a single person walking softly and radiating compassion becomes an anchor for the collective soul, proving that the peace we cultivate within the walls of our own hearts inevitably spills over to nourish the parched earth of our shared human experience. This interconnected web of compassion extends far beyond human relationships, finding one of its most beautiful expressions in the companionship of Aloka, the beloved peace dog. The story of Aloka, transformed from a vulnerable stray into a cherished, world-famous ambassador for peace, is a living testament to the boundless nature of merit and loving kindness. When we open our hearts to the suffering of a single creature, offering care, healing, and a place by our side, we are participating in the deepest spiritual work imaginable. Aloka's journey alongside Bhante Pannakara reminds us that the path of mindfulness is not a rigid, sterile practice devoid of joy or affection. It is a warm, vibrant engagement with all of life. It teaches us that every being we encounter, whether human or animal, carries their own profound merit and has the capacity to touch the world in unimaginable ways. The ripples of saving one stray dog inspired others miles away to open their homes and hearts to animals in need, demonstrating how compassion multiplies exponentially. This beautiful narrative serves as a gentle, uplifting invitation to each of us. We may not all be called to leave our careers, shave our heads, and walk thousands of miles across continents, but we are all called to our own version of the walk for peace. We are all invited to look closely at our daily lives, at our fast-paced routines, our moments of grief, the falling leaves in our own backyards, and the stray, vulnerable parts of ourselves and our communities that need tending. May we all find the courage to pause in the middle of our busy days, to question the mirage of external success, and to cultivate a deep, abiding inner stillness. May we learn to sweep our mental gardens with patience, to accept the word no as a teacher, and to walk forward with such gentle, radiant mindfulness that our very footsteps become a blessing to the world.